There we go. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Umesh. I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm doing really good, thank you. Are you in San Antonio or are you in Houston?
No, I'm
Or
here
are
in
you
Houston with you
okay?
today. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
you're not out in your cabin on
Mm,
the river, right?
No, otherwise you'd have my cactus in the background.
Nice, nice. Well, welcome. And we what we thought is so everybody. I know that y'all were looking forward to John Valenti and the live hack presentation. And as I mentioned earlier on, we're very sorry that John Valenti's father passed away, and we do send our condolences to him and his family in this time of grief. But what Phil did very nicely is we decided that we would kind of fill in a little bit and get an audience participation round going. We have a couple of Amazon $25 gift cards we're going to pull for and draw for just anywhere within the when we feel like it. Either Phil will just drop one in and say, okay, it's time to do a $25 gift card, or I will do it. And how that will work is that you just keep putting your comments in, keep answering questions. We're going to do informal polls and be participatory, and then either our back office, a back production unit, or Phil will probably just pick a winner, and we'll pick them at random from all the people that are participating. And then how you're going to get that prize is that you are going to email us your contact information to info@houstoncybersummit.com. Could y'all pop up that email address, please, on the screen so that people know it and can see it? It's info@houstoncybersummit.com. Send us your contact information, your name, your title, and your email address, and we will send you electronically an Amazon e-gift card for $25. So as we pick those winners, that's how we will work. So all electronic, all digital. So tell us, what's been your couple of great takeaways from this morning's sessions from Bob Moore and from Peter Thomas?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed both of them. I think, Bob's discussion around artificial intelligence, I'm in healthcare mostly. And, where you're dealing with people's lives, but it seems so obvious that AI can be supportive there, but you've also got to be super careful. That was part of my question back to Bob as well was, how do you get that trust so that, this algorithm's making decisions, but if it's making decisions about someone's life, like driving a car or, their diabetes, their insulin pump, or however those, that you trust in that computer, it has to be right all the time. So I think it's amazing technology, but I think our hard part, just as you talked about, is going to be the human aspect of that. And and Peter's, he always educates me. I learn more, and I wanted to share. I probably shouldn't, but I'll be the first to shame myself. I was up till 2 this morning, removing some nasty malware off one of our family computers. I swear it was the cat that put it on there.
Just happened to go across your keyboard, right? And just,
exactly, and
deposited some malware.
Yeah, it was this barren search engine. It's on a Mac, it's this barren search engine, and it comes as part of a payload of some other software that you download, but it's super sneaky, and then it gets in there, and then it just pops up on your browser every time you want to do a search. It sort of takes over, and it's more irritating than anything. But it took some hard work to get it out of all the nooks and crannies on that computer.
So Phil, you're CEO of HASA. Why don't you tell the audience just for a minute or two as to just what is HASA and what your role is? Because I've got a question for you from a CEO's perspective of a healthcare organization.
Sure. And I was trying to act innocent for this part of the show, Umesh, but you're right. So HASA, we're a health information exchange. So we're a not-for-profit here in Texas. And we connect hospitals and physicians and health plans and patients together to securely share medical records so that, if I turn up at the emergency department, that doc can have access to all of my medical history and then can make a faster decision. They can see my old EKG, see how this guy's had, branch blockage for 20 years, that we're not going to worry about that. That's not what. So I think, from a that's what we really do. But as you know, medical records are so valuable on the dark web, much more valuable than financial information, that the one thing that keeps me awake as a CEO, and I also take on the role at HASA as security officer because I think it should be at the top level. The thing that keeps me awake at night is the stewardship of those records. A, because we would be out of business with a breach, and B, it is a lot of people's personal information. So yeah, that's and really why I'm part of this cybersecurity group. It's top of mind for me all the time, every day, every minute. I worry about that.
Let's do an audience question here really quick. Let's start with something. Actually, what I want to do is do the audience question, but I want to ask you one question first. This a question alluded to this in the previous session, which was, how do you sell cybersecurity to leadership? And you are your CEO, you've got a board, you're a major nonprofit in the healthcare space. How do you broach that question, and how are people reacting on your board?
Yeah, and we've got some sessions on that later that we'd love to hear what they think. But just personally, I thought when I took on this role 2 years ago as a CEO, I thought if my chances day one, to say to the board that cybersecurity is important, some of the reaction was that, hey, that's your problem, not the board. But we talked about it a lot, and I have some cyber experts on the board. Mark Holliday from Methodist Healthcare Ministry is going to be joining me on Thursday when we're talking about protecting patient records. He is a big advocate and very knowledgeable on this topic, as well as part of the HASA board. But really, we talked about it from a risk perspective, and the board's role is really, apart from hiring and firing the CEO, is around risk mitigation. And cybersecurity is a high risk, important thing. So we have that discussion at the board level pretty frequently now.
Well, awesome. And then we have a full session coming up, I think, right after this session on cybersecurity for the board of directors, and that'll be a very, very interesting conversation where I'm sure we will have a lot of these issues discussed. So let's ask the audience to participate. Let's start with some softball questions. What's your first question for them?
Well, and I was thinking I was going to ask this one, but nobody wants to fess up to bad things, so I changed it slightly. And I was thinking, to ask, does your best friend use a password manager? Yes or no? Just a straw poll on how many out there use a password manager.
So all you got to do is say yes, or you got to say password manager, or you say, yes, I use a password manager, or yes, I know people who use a password manager. Drop that into the chat session. Let's do that. Okay.
So while I was going to say, let me ask you, Umesh, do you use a password manager?
Yes, I do.
But yeah, I do too. And it's I think from one, I only have to remember one password for the most part, and it's super long. But I don't. So the rest of them are just garbage, and they're different, so that I don't ever reuse passwords. So if someone hacks into my Amazon account, for my online shopping and gets that password, it's not going to be any use anywhere else.
Right. So what's for those that are not using a password manager, what do you think? So let's ask the people out there, what do you think? Do you think that a long phrase, a complex phrase is better, or a short, complex password with a lot of numbers and special characters?
Yeah, that's always a controversy out there, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, which is,
what are people thinking?
What are people thinking about that? I mean, I'll give my bias on that, Umesh, is that, length in this case matters. And if you're doing a brute force attack, it's just a mathematical algorithm for a computer to hack through X amount of characters. And the more characters you've got there, the longer it's going to take. So if you've got 100 character password, and it's basically unhackable, even if it's a simple phrase. So long as nobody else knows it, it doesn't have to have the complexity of numbers. Whereas a short thing with lots of exclamation marks and numbers, and it's hard for me to remember that because my brain doesn't work that way. But I'd be interested in your opinion, Umesh, on this.
Yeah, so, and we're beginning to get some people who are participating over here. So this is pretty nice. Best friends or managers. That's what Will Jack is saying. Craig says no, he does not use a password manager.
Or his friend doesn't, or his manager doesn't. Right?
Or his manager doesn't, right. Tu Nguyen says yes. Tell us which one you use if you feel comfortable. Parmita says yes. Go ahead and tell us, drop it in the chat. What do you use? Mark Whitman says yes, asking for a friend. Okay. Michael Barrett says yes. Joni Lopez says, I don't use a password manager. I know who do, and I should. That's strong. That's great. Good for you, Joni. Good for you, Joni. Mesmer says, yes, I do. Wheeljack says passphrase, so that's what he uses. Let's see. We're carrying on. It says Anthony Hernandez says, yep, I use a password manager. Shanine says, I favor a passphrase. Tam says, they're a lifesaver when you have multiple different logins and passwords across and Joel says passphrase. Craig says at least 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, non-alpha. So we are getting, actually now we've got some good conversation going on between the members. And so Bill says, I don't use a password manager. Shankar says, I use a password manager. So this is really cool. So what, you asked me, what do I feel? Password managers are good because I don't have to constantly log in and log out and keep changing passwords, etc. But what I do is every account of mine that I can turn on MFA, multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, I do. Emails, loyalty accounts, bank accounts, 401k accounts, all of those utility accounts, I turn on MFA for everything. Yes, it is a little difficult, but you get that code back to your either via your email or to a text, and you can just nowadays you can just copy that and paste it in. So or you go to your Google, have it hooked up to your Google Authenticator or your Microsoft Authenticator, and so absolutely, I just don't trust it.
Right. Talking of trust, Umesh, Paige just posted, which I think is a valid concern, that I don't trust password managers. What are the, now you're putting all your passwords in some piece of software that's stored somewhere that you don't know. I think that's a valid concern. Of course, I use a password manager. I couldn't live without it. I probably have 80 accounts and I just can't remember all the passwords. And I use two-factor authentication on that too, on the password manager, and I trust the vendor at some level, but I don't know them personally. What are the fears there, the concerns that, now all your passwords are potentially available?
Yeah, I mean, password managers are stored in the cloud. That's one issue. But, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the cloud. So long as I think it's a matter of using the best that you can, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, the one that I use LastPass actually, and we use it with two-factor authentication. Our whole company does, so everybody's required to use that. And we pay for. There's a free version for individuals, but we pay for the licensed version. It's still not expensive, but it's at least as I understand it, and as I taught, that it's a zero recovery, so that all of your passwords are encrypted by your passphrase or your master password, so that even if that system is hacked in the cloud, those passwords are not available to anyone unless they know your your master password. So long as you never write that down, it never comes out of my head what that password is, then I feel like I'm covered. Maybe I'm being naive.
So I love this. Priya says, no, I rely on memory. I love it. Way to go, Priya. So I think it's time to do a drawing. What do you think?
I think so too. Everybody's been very engaged, so thank you for that.
So it's $25 Amazon gift card. Put it in the chat. Amazon, just put gift card or put $25 or whatever it is. Let's just put that in there. Let's go. Let's rack it up a little bit. So while people are putting in, go ahead and interact. Go put in that. Let us know that you want that $25 Amazon gift card. And so we'll be, here we go. Tu says gift card. Nice. Let's get other people participating. And so keep putting in gift card, folks. And we're going to just kind of talk about while we're putting in gift card. Go ahead.
Yeah, Umesh, I wanted to come back to your two-factor authentication. I was reading an article that from Microsoft that 99.9% of hacked accounts didn't use multi-factor authentication. So, that seems like a pretty significant safety net. If you're using multi-factor authentication, you're in the 0.1% group. That's big.
Yeah, that just shows you 0.1%, right?
Yeah, I mean, we know that multi-factor authentication is not invulnerable. There are ways around it, and if somebody gets your phone number, they can redirect that text message, and there are ways around that. But it's pretty safe. Well, Microsoft says 99.9% of hacked accounts did not use multi-factor authentication.
Right, and you've got 480,000 compromised accounts, which represents some 40% of the total that just fell victim to password spraying. Now, go ahead and tell the audience what is password spraying. And I'm still collecting all the names over here. The people in the back are collecting all the names, and they will be drawing for this gift card. Go ahead and put in the gift card in the thing.
Yeah, I see that we're getting lots of messages. That's
yeah. Well, let's talk about password spraying real quickly.
I'll let you start that. You start on that one.
It's all about automated passwords, right?
Right, it is.
You got a whole bunch of passwords, and you're just brute forcing, and you're spraying the passwords.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, and I think that comes back to using non-common dictionary words, because they get used a lot in there, and longer. So you get outside of the dictionary when you get longer, and the brute force, once you get past 20 characters, say, it's just mathematically, it takes thousands of years to hack that password. So you will have changed it by then, unless you're on one of Peter's servers that doesn't have one of those password expirations on it.
Okay, it's time, Phil, for you to kind of go through a drum roll and pick a winner.
Oh, who are we gonna pick on here? I gotta go with Craig, because he says pick me.
Okay, so go ahead. So is that Craig Reeds, you said?
Yeah, Craig Reeds.
All right, Craig Reeds.
Congratulations, Craig. I think he put in the most gift cards too.
Yeah, he was constantly pounding away. So you got
that thing, right?
Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So you gotta keep putting those things in there. All right. So now we know we're having some fun. So $25 gift card to Craig Reed. So Craig, go ahead and send at HoustonCyberSummit.com. Send us your contact information. There you go. All right. So let's talk about board engagement. And we've kind of talked about this. So the people that are on the show, on the audience, let's ask you, how often do you discuss cybersecurity at the board level? And do you guys? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it at every board meeting? Is it at? Is it part of your culture? Is it annually? Never? So just kind of go ahead and put that in there. I think we've already talked a little bit about it, and we have a session coming up, next session, that will be talking in more detail about these topics. And George Crawford, Elizabeth Rogers, Mary Dickerson, and Joe will be today at 1 p.m.
Yeah, Numesh, why you think? And I'll be intrigued by to see the feedback here from everybody. But what's your thoughts on why the board maybe doesn't want to talk about cybersecurity? I know sort of culturally this has been a back office, technology thing. We've all in this as this Houston task force have tried to elevate it to something more strategic, something more important, or bigger than just protecting servers on the back end. It's a culture. It's something that we really need to embrace. Where do you think the resistance is in boards talking about this?
Well, I think part of it, and thanks for the question, Phil. I've had the opportunity to serve on several boards, and part of the issue is that board members want to deflect the responsibility as much as they can. So they want an arm's length transaction. However, that is not possible now, because especially when it's risk or reputation, or, as board members, we are making decisions, and we are supposed to make decisions that inure to the benefit of the shareholders. So anything that really could affect the value of our stocks or shares, or affect the value of our shareholders negatively, even positively, it comes under our purview. So what it used to be maybe a couple of years ago, where we wanted an arm's length transaction, we wanted to push it down into the organization. That's not really possible anymore. So I think boards are getting more and more responsive to that, and we're accepting that we have to be looking at it from a risk management and a reputation management perspective, at least.
I think as well, it's hard, and again, I'd be intrigued. See what people are saying about this, but what information do you feed up to the board as well? And I think we'll get some of that out of this summit. What does the board want to know? They're not interested in the bits and bytes of computers, but they want to know about risk and vulnerabilities. So how do you present that in a matrix at the board level?
Right. Yeah, it's and what do you report? Because there are different ways of reporting. You have a lot of stuff that goes on. There are so many vectors of attack that what do you really crystallize down into? What's a good governance report? What's a good board report? What are the metrics that matter? How do you convey information that you take technical information and you crystallize that down and put it into more English readable form? So that's always a challenge. But let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about let's pivot to this whole Peters and Bob's talked about ransomware and artificial intelligence and breaking through and ransomware. Ransomware is a big problem, right?
Yes.
So let's ask the audience, should you pay for ransomware or not pay for ransomware? That's a charged question, right?
Indeed. I mean, that was always, it's always been U.S. policy here, is to never negotiate with terrorists. And, if they take over your plane, then, it's going down if that's what's happening, because if they get their money, that it just encourages them. But I'm seeing a lot out there where they're paying.
Right.
And it's probably not good. Well,
right. So let's come on, go ahead, folks. Put in either no or yes or maybe, and there are different reasons why. So while you're putting that in, go ahead and put your answers in. We're going to be constantly, any time we might just drop another $25 on an Amazon gift card. So, what I guess the big issue is to pay or not to pay. On one hand, if you pay, you are investing you're helping people profit from it, and those entities now can take that money and use those monies to invest in more technologies and become even more strong and more powerful, right?
Right. And it's an
And
incentive for others to say, hey, you can make money at this, why don't I start doing it? Right.
right,
Give up
$6
my day
trillion,
job.
my
Right.
God.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have the issue that says, I have a room full of patients. I'm on a trading floor. I can't process any credit card transactions. And, I'm I'm a police department and I can't get to any of my prisoner records. Whatever it is, uh, you've got to be able to still continue doing business, and moving back to a paper-based business may not be very possible. The courts we had a lot of courts, little small courts and jurisdictions that got infected with ransomware, and they had to kind of maybe either shut down the courts and not process tickets, not process any lawsuits for almost 4, 5, 6 weeks. So when do you pay? When do you not pay? It's a very interesting conversation, right? So we're looking for comments, folks. We're looking for feedback. Pay or not pay?
Yeah, and it looks like we've got a lot of never pays. Not if you can help it.
We got a lot of never pays.
You shouldn't.
pays.
U.S. Treasury Department says no. Some might have no choice. This is a good point, Umesh. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit. I've heard some insurance companies are simply negotiating the price down. So the insurance company doesn't want to pay you because you're paying cyber insurance. Maybe it covers ransomware. Now they've got a big payout. And they're like, it's cheaper if we negotiate with the bad guys and pay them.
Right. So we've got 2 saying no. We got Blue Land saying never pay. John saying no if you can help it. Wheeljack says you should not. Michael Barrett's a no. U.S. Treasury Department says no. Some might have no choice. I've heard some insurance companies are simply negotiating the price down. This is the point you were making.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Tam says the Treasury Department is making it illegal. Paige says, pay for a strong backup plan, not ransomware. Great advice. Anthony says, definitely do not pay. Cyber Batman's got the idea. He's putting an Amazon gift card. Got it. Yes, start dropping those in. Let's say Amazon gift card. Go ahead. We'll do another round right here, right now. Mark says they consider the alternatives available and pick the bills to allow the organization to survive. A robust backup is obviously better. You want to talk about that robust backup for a moment? As to, how do you ensure that when you get infected, how do you partition it so that these crawlers do not get through your system to an attached device?
Right. You're right. So you've got a hot swappable site, or you've got a disaster recovery site, and now it's that ransomware gets propagated across all of those, so you lose everything. So I think it comes back to Peter's isolation thing. That there has to be technical ways that you can protect that environment. I think and maybe I can talk a little bit about this later, as well as the health information exchange. We have completely different kinds of interfaces between our hospitals and ourselves that don't pass that kind of payload. So, that third party backup like us can be another way out. So maybe you have you've got your backups and your DR, but maybe you have another backup strategy that is doing, using another path that doesn't pass ransomware payload. And I'm getting above my pay grade on that one.
You're okay. You're okay. All right, we're getting a lot of people putting in there. So I love this from Paige. I have your data. You can get it back with an Amazon gift card. I think so. So I think just for creativity, Paige, we're going to give you this
I love it.
$25 gift
Yeah.
card. All right, go ahead and send your information in. That was very creative. Awesome. So I sure hope you don't have my data, but if I do, I know where to find you. So, all right, Paige, I have your data. info@houstoncybersummit.com. All right, let's see.
So I think though, Umesh, that was great. I think the straw poll was that we don't pay. That's
We
the
don't
smart.
pay.
That's the smart way to go. It may be painful, but it's the shorter path.
Exactly. So let's say people get into your system, right? And you have a lot of edge devices, IoT devices, and data sharing going on. You want to kind of set up this next question, this next poll?
Yeah, sure. I want to ask if everybody knows. So a lot of what I see happening is it's tough to monitor audit logs and system logs as to you've got this massive data. I think it comes back into Bob's conversation as well. As AI can be very powerful in this as well, looking for strange events. But the average time to discover a breach is I'm going to put out some times and ask the audience to respond and see which one we get. Maybe there's I don't know how many gift cards we've got there, Umesh, but maybe there's a gift card for someone who gets the right answer. But how long is the average time to discover that you've had a breach? So is that immediately? Is that 23 hours or 1 day? 5 days? 143 days? 197 days? Or 278 days? So I'd just like to get everybody's feedback on what the thinking is how long does the average to discover that you've had a breach?
Right. So we don't, unfortunately, we don't have a slide for that. So let's kind of give them those numbers again.
Yeah. So I said 23 hours, 5 days, 143, 197, 278.
Yeah, because people are busy putting them in now. So here we go. We're getting, so that's again, immediately 23 hours. Well, the question is, what is the average time to discover a breach through an edge
Yeah, we can go
device?
with the closest. This is counting the beans in a jar. Whoever gets the closest here. But I see people erring on the high, the higher numbers, which is is true. So maybe you and I can talk while those are coming in, Umesh.
Well, let's talk about the risk over there. What's driving that?
Right.
I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah,
because you have a lot of infrastructure where you are seeing a lot of edge devices and IoT and healthcare.
Right, you do, and a lot of it's legitimate traffic, and you've got insider threats in there as well, and and all of this data, thousands of lines a minute in terms of audit logs. How do you capture that something was not appropriate? Especially, most of these are using legitimate credentials. So where we started here in Umesh talking about passwords, and strong passwords, and if my password gets compromised, then and somebody's got my username, well, that's easy, it's on the internet, but got my password too, they look just like me. So how do I know that this is not legitimate when someone else from the outside has my and then they can use a VPN so that you can proxy or cover up your IP address of where you're really coming from. So there's a lot of clever and simple tricks out there to spoof the system. So yeah, it takes often these breaches are found out from long after and from the outside, not from the inside as well. So that gives somebody who has your data now a long time to do stuff with it, to sell it or take advantage of it, whatever they're going to do before you plug the hole.
Perfect. So shall we go ahead and perfect. So shall we go ahead, and we've got several bunch of answers, and you want to tell us the right answer and then pick one with the right answer?
Yeah. So the right answer is 197 days.
That's a little over 6 months,
a little over 6 months. That's a long time for someone to have your data. And I want to come back to that, Umesh, as a consumer as well. Are there things that you can do about that if you're going to be the one that discovers it in 1 day rather than 197 days? So I see, well, if you got the numbers, I see a few people got the right answer there. A good few people got the right answer there.
Right. So go ahead, your choice.
Well, Kitty Cat was first. So let's go.
Kitty Cat. Okay.
And since the Kitty Cat put a malware on my computer this morning or last night, it's Apple Pro. That's it.
Okay. All right. So Kitty Cat, you're the winner. Go ahead and please send in your information to info@HoustonCyberSummit.com. info@HoustonCyberSummit.com, and we will get you a $25 e-card. Great stuff. Good. All right. What are we going to do next? Where are we going next, Phil?
Well, I want to, we've got tomorrow at noon, Wayne and Darnell are talking about the Internet of Things tsunami,
right.
And so talking about the, that's where breaches typically happen, and Bob talked about that, and Peter as well, that those are the most vulnerable devices out there. How do you protect those? So I think, in terms of protection and prevention, and
right. And then also today we have a session on how to build a competitive cybersecurity program. And, the Greater Houston Cybsersecurity Council has worked hard over the last several years and put together, I think you were a part of that effort too, Phil, where you put together the online cyber preparedness assessment tool, and that's available. Yeah.
No, I did. Part of that is, we're telling everybody all this, bad news, and how do you make it actionable, especially for a small business? How do you give them tools to do things? So I think, talking about that preparedness is a good place to listen and find, hey, these are maybe simple and cheap things that I can do.
We've got a little bit of good conversation going on inside. People are beginning to kind of joust around with each other. Wrong answer, no good card for you. I love that too. Seems like I'm the only one who didn't Google the answer. So I love it. I love it. This is pretty good, Wow. So T-Rex says, Keith says, I do find banks to be pretty good. Okay, so but we did. Let's just go ahead and recognize people that have been participating. That the real answer was 197 days, but Craig said 140. Kitty Cat, Parmita put in 197. Keith said maximum days. I guess he was going for 278. 2 was at 197. Anthony was at 197. Michael's at 197. Sujit was at 143. Probably close to right.
We got an educated. I know, there's probably many people who these are all experts in this part of this audience, part of this whole team, and they know this stuff. It's really encouraging as well.
Right, and I love the fact that people are participating. This is awesome. So, and then of course I definitely got to push this up again. This is awesome. That was just awesome. And Mohammed saying, seems I'm the only one who didn't. and now, and Tu's getting into it. Everyone around should get the hashtag. Should get the gift card. Yeah, I think so too. But maybe we'll have to get a sponsor to do that. So, okay, so let's set up the next topic.
Yeah, here I wanted to talk a little bit about the financial value of good cyber hygiene, Umesh? And again, talking to your board or your CFO, why should we invest all of this money in cyber protection, or backups to avoid ransomware? How do you make the case, the financial case? What are some ideas? And I got a few, but what are some ideas around? What is the return on investment? Is it all cost avoidance? And again, we're talking as well this afternoon about a competitive cyber protection program. So competitive suggests you're driving revenue out of this. Are there ways that you can make this a positive return on investment, this work that you're doing on cyber?
Right. So I think, I think we've got to talk about it from different lenses, right? There are the private companies, there are the nonprofits, there's the public companies, there are the government agencies, municipalities. Everybody's affected, correct? So,
right.
And there are different drivers and different market drivers for different people. So it also comes down to your appetite for risk. So how do you quantify the risk? But for the most part, I think where we are seeing people invest in good cyber hygiene and good cybersecurity practices is where they see it as a good market differentiator. And it's like many of the restaurants and all in the current coronavirus situation, they've gone so far as to say, we have great sanitization, we have great protection, this is what we're doing. Our cooking staff is all wearing gloves, they change gloves all the time. We're wearing face masks, we're doing face shields, all the tables are set up with social distancing. So people are trying to get back into, a couple of our board members over here, and they are members of the Greater Houston Cybsersecurity Council. A big real estate firm is looking at how do you put in contactless elevators all over the place. But imagine the amount of cybersecurity needs that are there. But that's market differentiation. So how do we stand apart? How do we use cybersecurity to be able to convey trust with our customers, that your customer data is really protected? We're living it, we're breathing it. Not only is it protected, but we're also worried about the privacy of your data, which is a whole different issue about security and privacy. They do go hand in hand, but a lot of times when you implement more security, you give up privacy. So then it becomes a public relations issue. So if you do get hit with a breach, there are lots of companies that have handled breaches poorly, and they have seen their stocks tank. Whereas there are some that have actually used that opportunity. And if you look at some of the people like Target and Home Depot and a couple of others, they had their stock values plummeted. And then they managed the whole situation through a PR effort. And guess what? Their stock price is now way above what they were at before or prior to the breach. So there is that process, which is not necessarily that we should be rewarding people who have not done a good job. And yet there is this public relations. So how do you mitigate risk? How do you lower the cost of your infrastructure? You just can't keep piling on technology either, right? So where do you lift the bar to? What's reasonable? So this is a very, very vast conversation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's that risk mitigation. There's some things you can do, then you buy insurance for the rest. It's like my sailboat. I try to tie it up before a hurricane, but then I have insurance. So if it sinks, that last step is that catastrophic is covered. But yeah, I think I'd be interested from everyone for comments. What within their own organizations, how are they marketing their cyber posture as a positive? Either as you say, Umesh, as a market differentiator, or as a revenue generator in this. To more than cover the costs of the work.
Right. So we've got some feedback coming in too, is saying, I think cybersecurity is a cost of doing business.
So that's a fair comment. I think, that you got to sell that to the CFO and maybe the board as well. Say, hey, because you could spend endlessly ahead. As part of that is, to your point, Ramesh, this risk mitigation in there. At some point, you can't make it 100% protected, so you have to accept some risk, and you cut off the money at that point. We're only going to do X amount.
Right.
Where making those decisions, where is that? And I think the board definitely needs to be involved in that. But I think also there's maybe ways to turn it as well into just as that reputational thing. Use PR to say, hey, we're more secure than the competition.
Yep. Here's a comment. Sujit says it's reputational risk that he finds most important. I guess if you lose your reputation, you lose your customers, right? At the end of the day.
You do. I mean, that's the industry that I'm, where I am, that's definitely the case. We're out of business without that. So at some level, It is a cost of doing business, but at the same time, it's expensive. So you want to turn that into a revenue generator as well, where possible.
And so we've got. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. Shanine. Shanine is saying, so speaking from healthcare, if a company, let's say, is HITRUST certified, I would rather do business with that company than a company that is not. It's interesting that we're talking HITRUST, and I know that yourselves and a couple of other health information exchanges around the region have focused in on HITRUST certification.
Right. No, it's a great certification. And again, those things are really good. You can take that, hang that shingle out after you've gone through it, and it shows a certain amount of rigor that you had to go. I think there's still, even in there, you can either get the checkbox, or you can adopt the whole thing as more as a culture. So there's a range of being HITRUST. I mean, you get the certification, surely that's the bar, but you can go beyond that culturally as well.
Right. And so now Sujit says that they are an accounting firm and they handle a lot of customer financial data. As such, reputational risk is a huge part of mitigating effort into protecting, controlling, and safeguarding customer data. So there you go. Again, so it's all of the factors that we've been kind of talking about.
Yeah, no, that's a great point from Sujit, around, that whole reputation piece and that trust in you, that people are going to trust you to look after those things.
Right.
So, critical.
And then Mohammed says for a cybersecurity company, it's an opportunity. I guess, yeah. I mean, if you and I'm sure that there will be conversations here at our next, within our next sessions here on the cybersecurity for the board of directors and how to build a cybersecurity competitive program, where we are talking about and exploring, how is it an opportunity and what is the right opportunity? You can talk about, and you mentioned something about cyber insurance. So let's ask a question around cyber insurance. How many people have cyber insurance? And I think that people may not like it put that way. So what is the limit on cyber insurance? Is there a limit? Can you just tank up on cyber insurance? Or is there a limit? Like you said, I can protect what I can and then insure the rest. I think that is such an appropriate comment. So
yeah. No, I think, but even, the premiums are not cheap. And so there are definitely, unless you're independently wealthy, insurance has its limits too. I think, and I will talk about this on Thursday as well. I think in healthcare, again, I may be quoting these numbers wrong, but it's somewhere north of $400 a record is the estimated cost of a breach. So if you want to cover that with insurance, say you had, 10 million records in your hospital, and times $400, that's a lot of insurance, a big insurance premium. So I think even that has limits. So it all comes, I think, again, now I'm showing my bias, it all kind of comes back to this board risk mitigation. Is how do you decide where you're going to put your money and your effort and your reputation, and come up with with a clean decision together of where the organization is, depending on what you're doing.
Right. So let's go to one other topic, and let's get people involved on this one. That says, go ahead and tell us yes or no. Can legislators help us? Is that yes or no? Do you believe in legislation? Do you believe in non-legislation for cybersecurity? Can legislators help us? Let's ask the question and give us a yes or a no. Yes, they can. No, they cannot. Maybe. Whatever. Just throw something in there. Go ahead and in the chat, and we're going to pick one more gift card here for $25.
So I'm interested in this because, you know, and
right.
It's my fault here. I brought in Representative Capriglione. He kindly volunteered for fireside chat at 4:30 p.m. on Thursday. So I'm going to be asking him lots of questions of his. He's authored a lot of legislation around cyber. I think, you know, sometimes with the legislation, at least my experience has been with it, you know, I joke that if you're not designing the menu, you may find yourself on it. And, you know, and the legislation is where a lot of stuff happens, and they can make either barriers or incentives or opportunities for businesses in cyber, or for hackers, you know, unintended consequences of things that they do, and unawareness of what cyber is. They're not experts on this subject typically. So I would encourage that we should be involved and should be educating our legislative branch of what we think, so that if they're not helpful today, you know, that they can be in the future. And
let's keep on. So we've got a ton of people online, and so let's get some more answers. Yes or no or maybe. $25 Amazon e-gift card coming up. We're going to pull for another e-gift card here.
Yeah. So what comments are we getting on legislatives?
So we're getting. Nada says nope.
Nope. No confidence there.
Craig says nope.
All right.
Chenian says, geez, oh my God.
Oh, well, our poor legislators not getting good.
Sujit says nope.
Oh.
Well, Chenian is rethinking, says maybe, or I guess, I hope. Paige, very direct. Are you kidding? No. I love it. I love it. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. This is what we need. You have to protect yourself. Yes, you do. Nobody can protect you, you know, but
exactly right. And I think maybe on Craig's comment, you know, sort of going back to my own, is we have to protect ourselves, but maybe part of that is, you know, getting our legislators more educated as well on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got to educate them, but I think this is really good. You know, people have to take care of themselves. You know, you have to have ownership, right?
Right.
Michael Becker says yes. Sujit says usually they're not well informed. I think legislation will only serve as a checkbox for compliance, not necessarily what's good for your company.
Yeah, they're just a barrier.
Yeah, I Googled this one.
I Googled this one. It's great.
So, Michael, we're at. Okay, we've got humor now. Now people are getting the drift. For the benefit of gift card and for compliance, yes. Okay.
Working it for a gift card.
Yes, we should approach from various directions. Anthony Hernandez. Kitty Cat says yes. Tony Hernandez, yes. Why limit options? Well, see, now we're beginning to. It's interesting how that scale is beginning to kind of
I think
work through.
Yeah, no, it's a great discussion.
This is really interesting. Mark says maybe, example, nation states, militias connected across the internet. We never talked about cross-border and data and privacy across cross-border and when you do business overseas. And some of those topics are also going to be explored in both of the sessions coming up in the cybersecurity for the board of directors, as well as for how to build a competitive cybersecurity program. What are the issues for cross-border data collection? What happens when you are under discovery? How do you make sure that you protect yourself? Where do you keep your data? What do you do with your containers? How do you ensure privacy? How do you do all of that stuff?
Yeah.
So some of that is going to be discussed here in the next over the next 3 days.
Yeah, and are there more legal protections than there are legal sticks, around? I mean, again, in healthcare where I am, HIPAA, the Office of Civil Rights, they got some big money and big sticks, but could they also offer some protection to companies who do their best?
Right. So I was kind of cheating over here. I was looking down on looking at the other questions and comments coming in. I'm trying to handle 2 different screens at the same time. So sorry if I'm looking down, folks. But Craig says that your safety is your responsibility. Government can make laws, but they never keep up with technology.
And I think that's true. And the government is so far behind on technology.
Right. Okay, we're going to pull a gift card here in another minute or so. So get your comments in. Yes, no, maybe.
Well, and I think this one's yours, Umesh, to round it out.
Which one?
Great. No, to pick who gets this gift card for the most controversial answer.
Oh wow. Okay, I'm going to work on that here in a moment. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to give people just one more moment and see what do you feel that USA lags behind in privacy? And let's answer these 2 questions really quickly, and then we'll do the drawing. Do you feel that the USA lags behind in privacy? And Ron's got the GDPR and EU are good, and we should do something like that in the States.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, lags behind is a good question, or just it's a cultural difference. Hey, we're very much more interested in our individual privacy and rights than many other countries and cultures. So at some level, it's a decision we make, and that's part of that risk equation. Our independence and privacy, on the other hand, you go to the other extreme, like the Chinese, where they control everything and you're on camera every time you walk out of your front door, but that's a big imposition on your privacy that we would not put up with.
Right. So I think and so the question is GDPR laws in EU. There has been efforts at it, especially the new CCPA coming out of California and its impact across anybody that does any business or any data that goes across state lines of California. We have Elizabeth Rogers, who will probably hopefully touch on that in the board of directors session coming up here shortly, as well as later on in the day. So I think that's a great question to be explored in those sessions. So
I hope we teed up some good questions. I mean, some of these you and I have talked about, but not necessarily answered, Umesh, that they can become part of the follow-up sessions as well, and we can come back to some of these.
Well, here we go. Tam's made his opinion known. He says came out not too long ago. Most would consider California to be the most minority for most things in the U.S. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to pick a winner because you wanted me to do that this time. So we're kind of going around, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick Michael Barrett for the benefit of a gift card and for compliance. Yes, So we're going to go ahead, go with Michael Barrett. And I actually believe that's true. And compliance does drive a lot of cybersecurity business. It is sometimes backward looking. It is a checklist. It is a bunch of, and so security done just for compliance doesn't work. And compliance done just for security doesn't work. So overall, it's all about risk appetite, your reputation management, and so you set up a lot of your own governance policies in addition to what maybe a compliance framework gives you or asks of you. But you can self-govern, and there's compliance with your own self-governance policies and what's good practice around you in your company. So with that, Michael Barrett, for the benefit of the gift card and for compliance, yes, you are our $25 e-gift card winner. Let's get that.
Congratulations,
Let's
Michael.
get you to send us your information, all your contact information at info@Cyber Houston. That's keep saying Cyber Houston. If you want to send it to Cyber Houston, we will get that too, because the Houston Cyber Summit, as I mentioned before, is a platform that is put on by the Houston by Cyber Houston. So send us your information at info@HoustonCyberSummit.com, and we will get you that e-gift card. So with that, we are coming around to the last question, probably. What would you want to kind of tackle?
I get, maybe the other thing, well, we talked some of from the comments on the last in terms of opportunities and financial, Greg and Miriam are talking on Thursday about Hatch Pitch.
Yes.
We've got entrepreneurs. What's the confidence level out there that there's lots of new job opportunities and creativity available to start companies and do things around cybersecurity? Right.
And so Greg is the founder of Hatch Pitch, and he has been doing Hatch Pitch for IT startups for almost a decade now, and he's built that whole thing through Houston Exponential, that used to be Houston Technology Center before it turned into Houston Exponential. And I had the opportunity actually to work with him early on his Hatch Pitch initiative. And then he grew that, and he's become a fixture at South by Southwest in Austin. So they do a really good job with the entire IT space. And what we are doing now is saying, how do we apply all of those learnings to the cybersecurity space? And how do we do that here in our Greater Houston region? And with the Mayor's Initiative on Innovation and with the Houston Exponential, that is just done a whole pivot and is working on bringing capital to the area, early stage, mid stage, late stage capital to the area for innovation and robotics and bioengineering and cybersecurity. A large part of what we're talking about is cybersecurity for the businesses, because businesses are a great consumer and have a great need. So I think those are some of the great things that are happening in the Houston region. But I think your question is really, what are the opportunities for cybersecurity jobs here in our region?
Right. Yeah. And education and jobs, because we've got topics on that coming up over the next couple of days. And also, I maybe closing here as well. And my one, just goes through my own head as we're in this coronavirus pandemic thing. There's been a really successful organization in Houston called Pumps and Pipes that was really an amalgam of sharing ideas between healthcare, aerospace, and oil and gas, energy, because this all involves plumbing, whether it's your arteries or a petroleum line. But I wonder if there isn't also something, I'd love to hear people's opinions between, cybersecurity is all about viruses, managing them, predicting them, cleaning them up. So is this healthcare mess that we've got, or opportunity, however one likes to look at it at the moment, to get, bringing a brain trust together, around, healthcare and cybersecurity. I think there could be some great exchange of ideas that we can maybe come up with something cool.
Yeah, so let's talk about let's do one last topic here and one more last round of Amazon e-gift cards before we turn it over to George and his panel here. We will be shooting to do that right at the hour. So let's talk about, give us some feedback, audience. Do you see, is hiring cyber talent for your company easy, difficult, impossible, unaffordable, or anything else? So come on, we're going to take feedback here. Put your thoughts in. You know how to do this. We guys are looking for answers, and we're going to pick that last um, Amazon e-gift card. So let's talk about is hiring talent easy, difficult, impossible, cannot afford. And so you want to talk a little bit about some of what's going on in the Houston area in a couple of minutes?
Yeah, and I maybe, Umesh, I just wanted to talk to that as well from my own perspective, from a HASA perspective. You know, we're tiny, and the talent's definitely available out there, but we just can't afford. So maybe I'd be on those answers, is that we don't need a full-time person on that. So being able to have a shared CISO out there that's helping a group of us or something like that could also be a powerful resource for small businesses. And I think about, the 1 and 2 physician practices that in West Texas that I work with as well, and they just can't justify cybersecurity talent on their own. But I think shared resources as well is a real opportunity in that.
Right. So I think we're getting good feedback. I need to keep it going, folks. This is your last chance at getting a Amazon e-gift card. Tell us whether you're having an easy time hiring cyber talent, difficult, impossible, cannot afford, or you want to use shared resources. We do have a great session coming up later this evening. It's the last session of the day. We have the deans from all the area schools and colleges, and Tony Ambler, the dean of the University of Houston College of Technology. And I'm going to do a shameless plug on this, is that I have the honor of serving on his advisory board. He's going to be moderating the group, and we will be talking about what the schools and universities, all the way from the independent school districts to the 2-year colleges to the 4-year colleges, are doing, what programs they have, what are they doing to get people equipped, what are the areas they're trying to get people equipped in, what are they seeing, what are they not seeing. So that's coming up later this afternoon. So make sure you tune into that. But you brought up this whole issue of shared resources, especially for small and mid-sized businesses. And one of the big things that we keep seeing is, and we're realizing through our Cyber Houston efforts, is that we have a better understanding of why small and mid-sized businesses are open to greater risk. A lot of times it is exactly what you said. They don't have the resources to bring on a full cybersecurity talent or invest in those in dedicated cybersecurity resources. Most of the time, cybersecurity has been delegated to the IT folks, and those IT folks are being used in a productivity or a keep my systems up and running, get this application working, bring on this user, delete this user, things like that. So it's a break fix mode a lot of times. And also a lot of times we're finding that administrators in that job market, there's a lot of churn. So people are kind of coming and going. And when they leave, the systems are not very well documented. So the next person who comes in behind them is actually looking at the spaghetti mess. And so they don't want to be the person on whose watch applications and stuff stop working. So they will just create or clone another admin user or a privileged user, some of the things that Peter was talking about earlier today. So those are kind of the issues that I think we're seeing. So shared resources, great idea, great topic. So go ahead, folks. I'm going to get ready to make this call here in a moment. So this is your last chance. I want you guys to put in your...
the hook is coming for us soon.
The hook is coming for us. I'm just going down and going to start putting up some. It says, Shanine says education talk is going to be interesting, as the debate has been going on for years, and how to best train. Craig is difficult finding people with OT, operational technology, cybersecurity experience. You want to talk about OT in 30 seconds? From an operational perspective, that is, instead of pure cybersecurity, that it's in your day-to-day operations.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about. I'm sorry. Yeah, my pause was just because it's a great question. Yeah, and how do you operationalize this? Because it does have to become that. Otherwise, it's binders with policies on the shelf, and
Right.
And if you're not following them, there's big fines and prison time for that. So you have to operationalize it. Yeah, I think one of the things that we did in that was we used Office 365. We used that flow mechanism in there and just built out everything that we said in our policies and procedures when we said we check antivirus, and it just creates a SharePoint task, bugs the person in their email with a link to go did it, didn't do it, and then also gives me a list to just review. Are we doing it? What are we behind on? What are we not behind on? But yeah, I agree. That's another hour discussion around operationalizing this stuff.
Yeah.
Great question.
And Shanine says education talk will be interesting. How to best train the next. Difficult. Hiring is difficult due to talent gap. Tam is saying lots of candidates out there. Permita is, I work in the oil and gas. Hiring is much talent, and so on. So here we are. We are going to select, and I'm going to select 2 this time because they have been very, very participatory. So we are going to go with Tam, Tran, and Shanine. So we're going to give both of you $25 gift cards.
Yay.
You have been awesome. Fantastic. Great. Let's give Phil a big round of applause. We're going to bring in our next panel here very quickly. So Phil, thank you for holding down the fort. And I think hopefully this has been really helpful. Would y'all all put in helpful into the chat or say, go Phil? Thank you, Phil.
Well,
whatever
team effort there, Umesh. No, thank you to everyone being part of it. It was, everyone in the audience as well. Thanks for being interactive. It was fun.
Yeah, awesome work. Thank you.